City Slickers by Billy Crystal and a few others, and it was made in 1991. And I realized when I put that together that if the statistics are right of hope, about half of you were not even born in 1991. And City Slickers is a movie of these middle-aged guys who've grown up in the city their whole lives, and they just go out in the country and they I don't know what you call that, take doggies, take cattle on a run. Boy, it shows how much I know. And kind of their journey through that. What's that? They cattle drive. Thank you. They do a cattle drive, and the whole thing. And maybe you've seen the movie or not, but that's just a great scene. What's your best day? What's your best day of ever? Man, just where everything seemed right. And I like to think about that. I've often had really, really good days. In fact, I like to call them these days that happen. In fact, there are moments in your day sometimes where it's just like, whoa, I just had a moment. I just had where everything felt right. Sometimes that maybe lasts a day. I don't know if I've ever had a whole day, but maybe for a couple hours or maybe just a few minutes. And I like to call those things garden glimpses. Those are moments where it's like, whoa, just had one. And you feel like, I just went back to the Garden of Eden there. Just for a second, it was like everything was just right. I used to say that to the kids. We'd be doing something or whatever, or especially when we were traveling, and I'd just be enjoying the road. You know, the car's actually running right, and there's 3 boys in the car, and they're not fighting, and he's touching me, and all that stuff's not happening. And then I would just say, I'm having a moment. I'm having a moment right now. Nobody screw it up. I'm having a moment. And invariably, somebody would, mess it up or whatever. But those times when you kind of, within you get kind of a glimpse of what it must have been like always in the Garden of Eden. That's what we want to talk about today. We'll talk about best days and worst days. Worst days that we have. We're going to spend most of our time, though, on best days. This is a fun message. I have had this wicked head cold since hit me Wednesday afternoon. And, all those things kind of come on. You go, I think I'm, and then you're just comatose. And so yesterday I was planning on doing a little more in this. I was going to do Isaac and then Jacob and Esau, and then it was just like, I cannot, just too heavy. This is a heavy message. I can't be heavy. I'm too NyQuil'd up, honestly, to be heavy. So we're going to see how this kind of goes, actually. We're okay in the morning anyway, but so this is a fun message. This is a fun passage of Scripture we get to look at tonight. And so this is also the service where you get to ask questions. If you have something that you want to ask a question about this message that we're talking about, that would be great. We'll take some live Q&A in a little bit. All right, so if you got a Bible with you, open it up to the book of Genesis. We are in Genesis. We're going to get to Genesis 25 eventually here. And most of our things that we've been discussing so far have been kind of heavy. If you look at these things, first of all, we have creation and then what life was like in the Garden of Eden. That doesn't last very long. It's pretty quickly that is gone. This beautiful relationship they had with God and with one another, symbolized by the man and his wife were both naked and felt no shame. And it's just a beautiful picture of what it was like to be in the garden. But that's kind of where the last time we see just indescribable beauty. From then on, it's always kind of tainted, and there's all these different kind of Debbie Downer things that happened. For instance, like the fall of mankind was kind of a bad day, right? The worst day ever. They sin against God, and sin enters the world, and everything changes. Everything changes. And happens chapter 3 and chapter 4 of Genesis, we see that Cain and Abel, the first kids, one of them kills the other one because he's jealous of his offering to God. And it goes from there. It gets better. Oh, wait, no. The flood. It doesn't get better. Sin creeps all over the place until we get to the flood, and where God is judging mankind for everything, that every inclination of their heart is evil all the time. Then it gets to, it seems like, a better part, where we get to where we have all these offspring. We went through the table of nations, Genesis chapter 10, and you go through all these different things, except when you back up and figure out where these 3, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, where they come from, and they're the sons of Noah. And the deal with them, though, is Ham is the youngest, and it's just this weird scene where Noah he plants a vineyard, he makes wine, he gets drunk, he gets naked, and Ham sees him. And it's just like, he can't even make this stuff up. It's just weird. And so and everything kind of goes back down. This leads then to the Tower of Babel, where the people on earth were given really two tasks. They were made the image bearer of God, right? And what does an image do? Like a mirror, what does an image do? It reflects back that image. So we're image bearers of God. We're made to reflect his glory to the world and to every other created thing. And they were to be fruitful and multiply and scatter all over the earth. They built this tower with the express purpose, it said, to build a city so that we won't have to be scattered and so that we'll make our name great. And that's exactly at least two of the things that are going on that they're doing wrong and go against God, and God comes down and thwarts their plans. And then it comes to Abraham, what we talked about the last 2 weeks. Here you have Abraham. Seems like things are going up. It really is. Here's a guy who gets a promise, and we'll look at him just in a minute here, and he does really well. But even in Abraham's life, there are significant downturns, specifically when he sells out his wife twice to protect his own skin in foreign lands, saying, hey, she's my sister. Go ahead, you can have her. And it's like, really, Abraham? You're our guy. And that's the way it goes. Now, we've been, sorry, I got this cold thing. Whew, man. Anybody else got this cold thing? Is this going around? I'm trying to see who gave it to me. Yeah. Actually was a deal. And this never, I don't know if this has ever happened in our marriage. We both got it at the same time. I mean, who is going to take care of me now? My wife told me, man, your guys are getting extra stuff. My wife told me when we first were married that one of her worst fears, a woman's worst fear, is to marry a guy and that he would revert back to being a little boy. So, like, she has no sympathy on me when I'm sick. I'm sick. Get up. But I'm sick. I don't feel good. Oh, you big pansy? Go get it yourself. I can't. My legs are torn off. You know, like nothing. I got nothing. Anyway, sorry. We've been talking about Abraham, and we're going to follow the story, and it's actually going to lead to his son tonight. Tonight, our main topic is going to be on Isaac, and the main event in Scripture, at least about his life, that happens. It really is at least regarding him. It is the coolest. It's the coolest story. It's really a fun story. But we've been talking about Abraham and how Abraham is defined as the believer. God goes out and chooses this guy, Abraham. Nothing special about Abraham, but he picks this guy, and he gives him promises. In Genesis chapter 12, we saw these promises, and they're reiterated in Genesis chapter 15. In Genesis chapter 15, Abraham is out in the middle of wherever the land that he's in, and God says to him, comes to him in a vision, says, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, you are a very great reward. But Abram said, O sovereign Lord, what can you give me? Since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus. If you remember right, the promise from Genesis chapter 12 that Abraham's referring to is three things. It is that his name will be great. People will really know him. He'll have many leather-bound books and on mahogany shelves. And so he's being a very important person. He will bless nations. People will be blessed because of him. He will have many descendants, like crazy. And then also the third thing, he's going to have land. This huge area, this huge nation. He says, but I don't have a child. And Abram said, you have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. And God replies back and he says that, no, this is not the case. This man will not be your heir, but a son coming from your body. And he means by that, from your and Sarah. Through that will be your heir. He took him outside. They must have been inside. Took him outside. He said, look up at the stars. Look up at the heavens and count the stars, if you indeed can count them. There's just thousands and thousands and millions of stars or whatever. And he says, so shall your offspring be. And Abraham has the audacity to believe God. He's an old man at this time, probably about 75 years old here, if I remember right from Genesis 15. He's an old man here, and God says, you are going to have as many descendants as there are stars in the sky. And Abraham believes God. This then leads in Genesis 15 to this event where they do the cutting of they cut a covenant, it's called, and they cut animals in half, and they Normally in this culture, you would hold hands with someone and you would walk through the pieces, reciting the covenant, thus saying, let this be me, like these animals, if I break this covenant. And if you remember right, in this promise, in this covenant that God is making with Abraham, Abraham's over there taking a nap while God walks through the middle. It does not depend on Abraham. This is going to happen. Now, that's not true of other covenants God makes, especially when it comes to the Mosaic law. There's definitely conditions. But this one, he's over there, and God, it goes through. He will make this happen. Okay, then God eventually here keeps his promise. It takes a while. Abraham's about 100 years old when it happens. And you see in Genesis chapter 21 that then actually Abraham gets a son. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age at the very time God had promised him. If you remember that story it's before 21. I'm trying to think if it was before 21. Anyway, he comes and he visits Abraham and he says, at this time next year, Sarah will be pregnant. And Sarah overhears this and she laughs. And God says to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh when I said that this was going to happen? Sarah freaks out and says, I didn't laugh. And there's this great passage right there where it says, God just says, yes, you did laugh. Like, I can't even believe we're having this discussion. But at the very time that was promised, Abraham gave him the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When this son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And then Sarah said, God has brought me laughter. And everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. I love that. They name the child Isaac. Isaac means laughter. And it's interesting to me because this could be one of your worst days ever, the day when God rebukes you and says, no, you did laugh. And now she's saying, she names the kid that, and she laughs about this. And I just think there's a theology of laughter that we're kind of missing. I love laughing. I think laughing is a helpful thing. I think YouTube was God invented so you could send me a 90-second clip so I can laugh about something, right? That's what it's for. No more than 90 seconds. I don't have attention span of a gnat. So that's about all the average American male can stand. But it's just made so you can laugh. And I think you should. It's a great thing. And she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. And she's laughing. And she's saying this. I'm nursing children. It's funny. Now, today we want to move on to Isaac. Isaac is the son. I want to talk about Isaac the rest of our time. And, excuse me, you have Isaac's best and worst day. And I'm going to do them in reverse order because that's the way it goes through Scripture. So we're going to start with Isaac's worst day. Here's his worst day. Terrible, rotten, no good, very bad day. I shared this story last week about Abraham, and this is usually a passage in Genesis 22 we think of when Abraham himself was tested. And it is. It's a big deal for Abraham, right? It's a big deal what goes on in here. And you maybe remember 2 weeks ago when I talked about this. This week, though, I want you to think about it from the mindset of Isaac. Okay, so nobody really thinks about that much. Let's think about it from the mindset of Isaac going through this. So sometime later, God comes to Abram so that the child is old enough to speak and old enough to, he's a boy at this point in time. And he says to him, God says to Abraham, Abraham, here I am. He replies and he says, take your son, your only son, the one whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Whew. Dude, that is huge. I mean, can you imagine? As a parent, getting that. But from Isaac's perspective, he doesn't know anything yet. He knows nothing at this point in time, all right? So the passage goes on, just to save some time, I'll just tell you. It says that early in the morning, Abraham obeyed and was going to follow on. We get then to verse 6, and it says, Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father?" And "Yes, my son," Abraham replied, hoping that the obvious question would not be asked, but it is going to be. "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Oh, man, let's talk about anything else except that. Now, Isaac's just curious. What's the deal here? And Abraham says, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son," which is not exactly a false statement, but pretty deceiving. And the two of them went on together. Okay, so Isaac, this is from his perspective now, and they're just walking along. Everything seems fine. When they reached the place God had told them about, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son, okay, Dad, this is weird. This is not normally what we do. And laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. Now, I've been a professional Christian for about 25 years. I have dealt with people in all kinds of things, all kinds of situations, things they've had, interesting family backgrounds, all that kind of deal. I know. I've heard a lot. I have yet to have anyone come in with this issue. My daddy laid me on some wood and was about to slay me. I'm not sure, but I think he might have had some counseling issues from this day. You know what I'm saying? That might have been like, oh my gosh, this is a heavy day. This is his worst day. Doesn't end there though. The angel of the Lord calls out to him, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." Now, it doesn't go into a whole lot more detail of Abraham and Isaac's discussion about this event later. I can imagine when they got home. I'm just doing a little sanctified guessing here. Sarah's over there sweeping up, "Oh, where have you guys been?" "Well, Daddy took me." No, we just went out to spend some time with God. That's what we did. I think he might have had some issues from that. But he saw God's faithfulness in the midst of it. But boy, it would have been a rough day. Worst day, maybe his best day, because the ram did show up and he didn't have to get sacrificed. But it still would have been a really horrible, rotten, no good day. Now, let's now go to Isaac's best day. If you don't watch SpongeBob, one of the best things about raising kids is you can watch all this stuff and not feel too guilty, even though the youngest is 16 and we still watch some SpongeBob. But SpongeBob is hilarious. SpongeBob's not for kids. SpongeBob is for people who have high intellect. Now,